He went undercover to see how his employees really worked. But what he discovered in the kitchen changed everything. The bustling dinner rush filled the air with the sound of clinking plates, sizzling food, and hurried footsteps. The staff of Harrington's grill moved quickly, unaware that their boss was among them. Daniel Harrington, billionaire CEO and owner of the successful restaurant chain, stood disguised as a kitchen trainee. Dressed in a standard uniform, no one recognized him. The goal? To see how his employees truly operated when they thought no one important was watching. And within minutes, he realized something was very wrong. At first it was subtle. Orders taking too long, frustrated customers, an overwhelmed staff. But then, he heard the yelling. "You're useless." A harsh voice echoed through the kitchen, making everyone freeze. Daniel turned toward the sound and saw a red-faced manager towering over a young waitress. "You're useless. How many times do I have to tell you? If you can't keep up, then get out." The girl, barely in her early 20s, flinched but said nothing, her hands gripping a tray tightly. Daniel's jaw clenched. He had run businesses long enough to recognize a toxic work environment when he saw one. And this was unacceptable. He stepped forward, keeping his cover. "Hey, what's going on here?" The manager spun around, sneering. "Who the hell are you?" Daniel forced himself to stay calm. "New trainee, just trying to understand the work environment." The manager scoffed. "Yeah? Then here's your first lesson. Some people don't belong in this industry." He shot a glare at the waitress. "Like her." Daniel looked at the girl. Her eyes were full of humiliation, but she refused to cry. He turned back to the manager, his blood boiling. No one talked to his employees like that, but instead of blowing his cover, he smirked. "You know what? You're right. Some people don't belong here." The manager smirked back. "Glad you get it, rookie." Daniel's smile widened. "Yeah, and you're one of them." The manager's face twisted in confusion. "What?" Daniel stepped forward, his voice low but powerful. "You're fired." Silence crashed over the kitchen. The manager laughed. "You can't fire me. You're just a—" Daniel reached up and pulled off his fake name tag, revealing his real one underneath. The waitress gasped. The other employees stared in shock. And the manager went pale. Daniel crossed his arms. "Still think I can't fire you?" The entire kitchen held its breath, because this wasn't just a trainee. This was their boss. And what happened next would change everything. The manager's face drained of color. He opened his mouth, then closed it, scrambling for words. "Mr. Harrington, I didn't know it was you." Daniel's expression remained cold, unwavering. And that's exactly the problem. The kitchen was silent. Every chef, server, and dishwasher stood frozen, watching their CEO dismantle the man who had terrorized them for who knows how long. Daniel turned to the waitress. "Are you okay?" She nodded quickly, still in shock. No one had ever stood up for her like this before. The manager let out a nervous laugh. "Come on, sir. I was just pushing the staff to perform better. It's a tough business." Daniel cut him off. "A tough business doesn't mean treating employees like garbage. You don't motivate people with fear. You motivate them with respect." The manager shrunk back. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by the man who signed his paychecks. Daniel took a step forward, his voice sharp. "Get your things and leave, effective immediately." The man, gawked at him. You can't be serious," the manager stammered, his face turning red. "I've been here for years. You need me." Daniel's expression didn't change. "I need a strong team, not a bully." The entire kitchen held its breath. Employees who had endured this man's cruelty for months, maybe even years, watched in stunned silence. For the first time, someone had put him in his place. The manager's gaze darted around, looking for support. But no one defended him. Not one. With a furious huff, he grabbed his coat off the hook, shoved past the stunned staff, and stormed out the back door. The moment it slammed shut behind him, a wave of relief washed over the kitchen. A chef muttered, "Finally." A dishwasher whispered, "I thought he'd never leave." And the young waitress? She looked like she wanted to cry, not from sadness but from sheer disbelief. Daniel turned to the team. "Listen up. No one should ever feel unsafe or disrespected in their workplace." They nodded, hanging on to every word. Daniel continued, "You all work hard. I see it. I appreciate it. And from now on, you'll be treated with the respect you deserve." A few employees exchanged hopeful glances. Daniel scanned the room before looking back at the waitress. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lena." He nodded. "Lena, how long have you been here?" She swallowed. "Almost a year." Daniel smirked. "Well, you've got a promotion, effective immediately." Her eyes widened. "Wait, what?" Daniel nodded. "You stepped up. You handled pressure. And despite everything, you kept going. We need more leaders like that." The room erupted in whispers. Lena blinked rapidly, trying to process what just happened. 1 minute she was being humiliated. The next, she had just been promoted by the owner himself. Finally, she managed, "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." Daniel smiled. "I know you won't." Then he turned to the rest of the staff. "Now, let's get back to work." As Daniel walked out, employees exchanged shocked but excited glances. Because in one night, everything had changed. Their tyrant was gone. Their boss had seen them. And for the first time in a long time, this restaurant finally felt like a team. 1 month later, the atmosphere inside Harrington's Grill had completely changed. Where there was once tension and fear, now there was teamwork and respect. Employees laughed, worked together, and even stayed late without complaint, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And business had never been better. Daniel sat in his private booth, disguised once again, not as a trainee this time, but as a regular customer. He wanted to see if the positive changes were real, or just temporary. The moment his food arrived, he knew. Everything was different. Lena, the same waitress who had once been humiliated in front of the entire kitchen, now walked confidently across the restaurant in her new uniform, assistant manager. She greeted customers with ease, helped struggling employees, and even checked on the kitchen to make sure everything ran smoothly. Daniel smirked. She had earned every bit of that promotion. A voice interrupted his thoughts. "You look satisfied, sir." Daniel turned and saw his new general manager, a sharp, experienced woman he had personally hired to replace the toxic leadership. He leaned back in his seat. "That's because I am." She glanced at Lena and the rest of the happy staff. "Quite the transformation, isn't it?" Daniel nodded. "I expected things to improve after I fired that manager." He took a sip of his drink. "But I didn't expect them to improve this much." The general manager smiled. "Well, sir, employees work harder when they know their boss actually cares." Daniel chuckled. "Good point." Just then, Lena spotted him. For a moment she looked panicked, then her face broke into a relieved smile. She walked over. "Sir, I didn't know you were dining in tonight." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "And?" Lena straightened her posture, no longer the timid waitress from a month ago. "And that means I better make sure everything is perfect." Daniel smirked. "Relax, Lena. You're doing great." She exhaled, a proud but nervous smile tugging at her lips. "It still feels unreal, you know. A month ago I thought I was getting fired. Now, I actually love coming to work." Daniel nodded. "That's how it should be." Lena hesitated, then spoke softly. "Why did you pick me? There were others with more experience." Daniel set his drink down, his expression thoughtful. Because leadership isn't about experience. It's about resilience. That day, when you were being humiliated, you didn't lash out. You didn't quit. You kept going. She swallowed hard, eyes glistening. No one has ever believed in me like that. Daniel smiled. Well, now someone does. The general manager chimed in. And I can confirm, she's one of the best assistant managers I've worked with. Lena's cheeks flushed. I won't. Lena's cheeks flushed. I won't let you down. Daniel smirked. I know you won't. Just then a server rushed over. Lena, there's a problem in the kitchen. Lena's head snapped toward the back. I'll handle it. She gave Daniel a quick nod before hurrying off, confident, capable, and in control. The general manager crossed her arms, watching Lena disappear through the kitchen doors. She reminds me of someone. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Oh? She smirked. You, always stepping in when things go wrong, always fixing what's broken. Daniel chuckled. Maybe. He glanced around the restaurant, the happy customers, the efficient staff, the thriving atmosphere. He had come undercover to catch mistakes. Instead, he had found potential, and as he stood to leave, he realized something. This wasn't just about fixing one restaurant. It was about building a culture where people were valued. And if this was what happened when employees felt truly seen, then this was just the beginning.